Hello and welcome back to the Tea and a Buddy podcast. I'm Dominic.
And I'm Erica.
And today we're going to be talking about the Magna Carta.
The Magna Carta.
Magna Carta, as Philomena Kunk calls it.
Philomena
Kunk. Oh, I've shown you Philomena Kunk before. Kunk on Britain. You've heard of it. It's a Magna Carta, actually, with an N.
Who's Philomena Kunk? I can't even say it.
Philomena Kunk. She's a satirical, character, created by Diane Morgan. She does, documentaries, and she had the documentary series Kunk on Britain.
Where is she from?
She was from a sketch show. I can't remember which one now.
It sounds familiar, but no, I do not remember.
And then they give her her own thing of Kunk on Britain, and she did,
Shut up.
funny historical, she was, the host, and she was interviewing these, serious, people,
real people.
Right, real people.
It was a little bit Ollie G-ish.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I vaguely remember, but...
Yeah, she, does, goes around, on democracy, on the Tudor, King Henry VIII, and it's, a funny kind of, she's kind of a mod...
Does she have, a little bit of a lisp?
No, she's, from the north. She's from...
No, she doesn't have a lisp. She's just from the north.
She's just from the north, No, she doesn't. No, yeah, we watched one. We watched one.
Yeah.
And I can't remember which one it was now. It might have been, archaeology or, it was just there on the empire itself.
Yeah.
And, it's just, a funny, she reacts funnily to, these super serious people, who are just, why would you want to do that? Or, who think, oh, yeah, she's a... It's oh, so tell me all about, why was King Henry VIII the way he was, and they'll just go, oh, well, King Henry VIII. She was like, well, so how did King Henry VIII get away with killing his first wife? Do you think the Tudor police should have,
okay, yeah.
Should have handled that one better, and brought him to account? And they're just kind of like, what? You mean the Tudor police? But yes, we're talking about the Magna Carta.
Anyway, the Magna Carta.
Yeah. But she called it the Magna Carta.
Okay,
which means volcano cardboard or cardboard volcano or whatever. The Magna Carta, if you don't know what it is, it's basically the British Bill of Rights.
Okay, yeah.
It was the first,
I remember...
the first British Bill of Rights.
I remember having a whole section of history class at some point.
It's the document.
In school. I don't remember if it was in middle school or high school or what, but there was a whole section where we learned about this.
They cited it in the Declaration of Independence. Yeah.
That being said, I do not remember anything about it. Yeah, I don't.
In 1199, King John became King of England, and he was Duke of Normandy in France, and all these other places, and he was Lord of Ireland, and he inherited England and most of Western France, where he was more powerful than the King of France. It was this was very medieval times.
Okay, yeah.
So
I didn't remember it having to do just with Britain. For some reason, I thought it was... an all-Europe thing.
Back then, that kind of area was very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Whoever was king of all that was very powerful.
I suppose so, yeah.
So, King... And then the King of France took Normandy from King John, and he went to war, and he was, demanding taxes from his subjects.
Yeah.
The barons, he was raising taxes, he was becoming and he was one of those, he was probably one of the most hated kings in Britain, or one of the most hated kings ever.
Yeah.
Because he was very unpopular, he was raising taxes, and the English barons, who of course he relied on to assist him in governing the UK, well, it wasn't the UK back then, England. From everything, and the barons were like, well, we're not having that,
Yeah.
You keep raising taxes, and we can't afford to pay for these foreign wars that you keep going on.
Yeah.
And, by there was a rebellion, and then by 1214, or 1215, I should say, they captured London, the barons, and they forced him to negotiate.
Okay.
So they went to Runnymede.
Runnymede,
which is in Surrey. They demanded that he obey the law, basically.
Yeah.
And, but of course back then it was like, I'm king. I'm above the law.
Yeah.
That's how they'd ruled for, decades and centuries before that.
I mean, you could argue that is how they still rule, only not with royalty, but with government.
Well, with government, yes. No, and I'll get to that later.
Yeah.
The barons were just basically like, well, we have to follow the law.
Right.
That you create. Why don't you? And you're like, well, I made it, so I don't have to follow it.
Yeah,
it's one rule for me, one for you,
Yeah, and Boris Johnson still
yes.
feels that way.
Yes, apparently, yes. And, so the barons wouldn't have that. They amassed an army and captured London. And, because they were incredibly wealthy, the barons, And so they captured London, they forced him to negotiate, and they made up this Magna Carta. And they met at Runnymede, which is a water meadow alongside the River Thames. River Thames.
Yeah.
In the English county of Surrey. And in June, and the result was written down by the king's clerks. Or clerks, as you say.
Yes. Because it's an E rather than an A.
The clerk of the court, clerk of the king. They wrote down it, and it became the Magna Carta, and it was this kind of like the charter of medieval rights and customs,
Yeah.
And it's become like the most powerful symbol of liberty around the world. Like Gandhi cited it when they were going for independence. I think even Thomas Jefferson said something about it when the Declaration of Independence was happening over here.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's even cited in the Declaration itself.
I think they used it. I mean, I said before I don't remember anything about it, but it seems like they used it sort of as the basis. I don't know if the basis is not the right word.
The basis for the Constitution.
Yeah, something like that. Not. I don't know if basis is the right word, but the inspiration. I think that's a better word.
Well, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, they were wanting something to happen. They were wanting change.
Yeah.
And so this would be a bill of change. I keep calling it a bill. A charter of change.
Yeah, and yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I vaguely do remember something about that, yeah.
The most famous clause, which is still part of the law today, for the first time gave all free men the right to justice and a fair trial.
Okay, yeah.
So, the king couldn't just say, well, I don't like that guy and he's been stealing, so kill him.
Yeah,
and it's just like, well, we have to determine whether he's guilty or not yet. It's like, well, I say he's guilty, so no.
I mean, we have to determine, but, that was very much not really still in force for some time
It wasn't.
It was like they had a trial, but
fell apart pretty early on.
But it's like, it was in quotation marks, wasn't it? Oh, well, we have to have a trial. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure, have your trial, but be sure you find them guilty, No
man shall be arrested or imprisoned except by the judgment of their equals and by the law of the land. To no one will we sell, to no one deny or delay right or justice. That was the exact wording of it.
Okay.
However, this clause was not as liberal as it sounds. The charter only applied to free men. The vast majority of people in 1215 were unfree peasants who were ruled over by their landowners.
Oh, God, yeah, okay.
So, yeah, it was just basically, creating the class system. The Magna Carta essentially was like, well, it's okay for us to have a free trial amongst our betters.
Yeah.
But you're still a peasant, so...
Yeah.
As you say, it wasn't enforced for some time until I think the Peasants' Revolt.
Well, I think
there's another thing I keep going on about.
Well, I think in my mind, I was thinking more of I don't know, let's say Henry VIII, for example. and just wanting out of his marriages, and so going, oh, well, she was cheating on me, so, she needs to be killed or whatever because she was committing adultery or
he was notorious.
I don't recall there being like a trial for anyone in that case.
No, it was like a sham trial.
But if there had been, it would have been sham trials, and those people would have been their equals. But it's like, oh well, the king said so, so it's just like, it must be true, and okay, put her to death or whatever.
Put her to death, cut her head off, get her out of here. Just let me,
So it's like it's in the law, but if the king said so, we still have to make it true. Sort of like I don't know, like, well, I mean, like corrupt government obviously, but like how the mafia can buy people, jurors. Jurors or by
judges,
yes, all of that kind of thing. Like there are and there were ways to get around these kind of laws,
Yeah, of course, yeah. And, although the Magna Carta was intended to create peace between King John and his rebellious barons, England was plunged into civil war because the Pope declared the charter invalid. He got the Pope to say, it's a load of crap. Just rip it up. Like the king was just like, I only signed this to like appease them right now.
Yeah, why? What? Do you know why? Why did the Pope say, like, what reason did he give to say it was invalid? Do you know?
He just declared it invalid because, he just declared it invalid. He was on the side of King John.
And it's like, the will of God.
The will of God, yes.
Human beings can't say what can be done and not done, I guess.
A king is anointed by God.
Yeah, okay,
we're not giving rights to you barons.
Right,
we're a king, it's like
king
the
has
the
ultimate say. Yeah.
I mean, when he died of dysentery in 1216, King John, 9-year-old Henry III took to the throne, and to keep the peace, the Magna Carta was reissued several times during the 13th century until it was finally made part of English law.
Yeah.
So...
Why am I thinking... This is so, like, absolutely 1,000% nothing to do with what we're talking about, but why am I thinking, like, you're saying King John, and I'm just picturing that the lion with the crown that's too big for his head and it keeps slinking down. It's got all the jewels
King John,
in it.
what's that from?
From the Disney version of Robin Hood. Wasn't he King John?
Yeah, I think he was King John, wasn't he?
I think so.
Yeah.
Just with this image in my head of like this lion with the freaking...
he was. I mean, I don't know if it's the same. I mean, when was the Robin Hood folktale set?
I don't know, because King Richard was supposed to have been Maid Marian's cousin, right?
Yes.
And he's the one he was out, and that's how the Sheriff of Nottingham got in charge or whatever. But I seem to think in the Disney one, there's like a King John.
Yeah.
And he's got his like
he's got his robe.
And the crown keeps falling down because it's too big for his head.
Yeah, I mean
sucks his thumb.
It's based on that.
Okay, that was totally off
That's
topic,
your favorite Robin Hood, isn't it? Your favorite adaptation of Robin Hood is the animated one.
I liked the Kevin Costner one when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We recently watched the extended cut of that, didn't you? And you were just like, oh yeah, I don't remember some of these scenes.
The extended cut of what?
Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Oh.
Kevin Costner.
Oh, vaguely, yeah.
Because I remember you going, oh, I don't remember this. And it's like, oh, this is a long one.
Yeah.
It's very long. Because they made an extended cut of it. I guess that's the ones they've released now. So.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
Anyway.
I mean, he's just sidetracked. I apologize.
I mean, King John, he was like, in history has gone down as like, oh yeah, the most hated king in history,
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't think, even Henry VIII didn't come close.
Yeah. Well, only his wives didn't like him.
Only his wives didn't like him, the ones he killed anyway. But the Magna Carta has lived on for 800 years, and it's echoed in the United States Declaration of Independence. This is all from the government website.
Oh, okay.
And the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And perhaps the Magna Carta's most important legacy is that everyone, including our leaders, must obey the law.
Okay,
and it's like that, yeah. Not find ways around it or just go, whoops, I broke the law, sorry about that.
Yeah, oh, well, that doesn't apply to me. You know, that seems like leaders around the world like to...
I'm above the law. Yeah,
yeah,
there's always...
they still like to believe
always,
that.
It's kind of interesting to think about, you know, like, people forced this, because Parliament wasn't created on that day in June 1215.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the very kind of, like, beginning of the evolution of it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it wasn't really the beginning of it. It was kind of like another major step in the process of it, because Parliament just evolved.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like over here, everybody goes, okay, yeah, Declaration of Independence, that's it, the Senate is formed, President's there, Vice President, it's all ready to go, you know, that's when it's started.
Yeah.
With Parliament, it's kind of like this ongoing thing, you know, so that's why there's no real constitution in Britain,
I mean, I guess you could say the amendments are the evolution of ours.
Yes.
Know? There were amendments were made as it went along,
yes.
You know. But I think it's interesting that you guys have this, but you're not going on about it all the time. Well, it says in the Magna Carta that, you know.
I mean, it says in the Magna Carta, that's only, like, if they're going back, you know. It's like this has been a right for 800 years that free men should be tried and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
People should have been pointing out. It says in the Magna Carta that you're not above the law, Boris.
Yeah.
You know?
Because, I mean, back then there was no prime minister or anything like that.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Whereas there was a president when, well, tentatively.
Yeah.
When the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution was written, you know.
Yeah. Because, you know, in case you're not familiar with American politics, people like to bring up the
Constitution because they have a copy of it, you know. It's always the Second Amendment.
Is there no copy of the Magna Carta?
Yes, there is.
Okay, where is it?
It's in the British Library.
Oh.
And
you can actually go see it,
on the back
or no?
of a postcard. Yeah, I think you
it's
can.
It's written on the back of a postcard.
No, I'm not sure if it's like... I think it's
chiseled in stone, like Flintstone style.
Fred Flintstone wrote the Magna Carta.
Like the 10 Commandments. You have to go into this room and it's just there in stone, like on the wall, you know. Thou shalt not be above the law. That was lightning.
Oh, it's not actually in the British Library, actually.
Okay, so you're just making things up now.
I'm just making things up now. I mean, I was getting confused because the British Library have a lot of information.
He's just looked it up really quickly. This is how he knows.
And the 1215 Magna Carta is currently displayed at the David P. J. Ross Vault in Lincoln Castle.
Okay.
So you can go to Lincoln Castle and you can see the Magna Carta.
I've seen one of the original copies of the Declaration of Independence, you know.
One of the original copies.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't seen the first one that they ever wrote.
No, I don't think that they don't travel it around, you know, but they made...
Because that's going to be in the Smithsonian? Or is it in the Capitol? Or is it in...
I don't know, actually. I don't know.
Somewhere in Philadelphia,
Unlike
maybe?
you, I'm not going to look it up right now.
Well, you see, that's the best thing about the internet. You can just look things up.
No, I don't know, but there's like, I want to say like 3 original copies. So like they made the first one and then they made copies because, you know, there was no like...
There's no printer. There's no scanner.
Right, yeah. They couldn't scan it and just print out a bunch
Imagine they could, though. Imagine someone brought a scanner. It's like, okay, it's okay. You can just make copies or a photocopier, you know.
And so they, you know, they wrote out...
Distribute these to your friends.
They wrote it out. They wrote it out a few times. I think there's like 3. I don't know. And they went on tour one time several years ago and it came to Austin, so I went to go see it because that's kind of cool.
And what was it in, like a glass case?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
People with white gloves and everything.
Well, I mean, nobody was handling it. You just went by it and looked at it and then kept going. Yeah.
Was it like lights on it or anything?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, yeah. I don't know if there's any copies. I'm sure there's copies of Magna Carta, but The original 1215 one is in Lincoln Castle. You can go see.
Okay.
The one that was ratified.
Is it chiseled into stone?
It's not. It's not chiseled into stone.
Oh, I know. It's scrolled onto parchment like Harry Potter.
It's Harry Potter.
With the
and, at the end, underneath it just goes, "I must not tell lies." It comes up on your freaking face.
When you go see it, you have to say, "I solemnly swear I am up to no good,"
yes.
and then it'll appear. Yeah.
So you get to see it. Yes.
No, that's awesome. Lincoln Castle, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Isn't that the one that was like a prison for a long time? It's like a really, really cool, but it doesn't have a whole lot of tourists because it's like, that's like the only thing really to see there? Or am I thinking of a totally different place?
The Lincoln Cathedral. There's Lincoln Cathedral
that's not
there. And then there's Lincoln Castle. Yeah, Lincoln... The Lincoln Castle... I'm not sure, actually, if it was...
Okay, I'm probably thinking of somewhere else, then.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah,
I definitely want to see that.
Yeah, we might have to do that when we finally go over to the UK and do our tour.
Yeah.
The big tour. We're going to see the Magna Carta, and you can talk about it being chiseled into stone.
And then we're going to have Dave Grohl on at the end.
Dave Grohl. Because Dave Grohl's going to come out, randomly.
And Bruce Springsteen.
And Bruce Springsteen. She's referencing Paul McCartney's Glastonbury set.
We're going to be like, all right, this is the end of our tour, ladies and gentlemen. Dave Grohl.
Dave Grohl, a big tour, yes. No, you should have said Johnny Depp. Because Johnny Depp was touring the UK. Yeah. With Amber Heard on drums.
Oh my god. You guys, this is supposed to be about the Magna Carta. We're talking about Dave Grohl and Johnny Depp now.
It's not written in the Magna Carta, so we won't talk about it anymore. We don't talk about that.
Oh gosh.
The funny thing is, in 2015, it celebrated its 800th anniversary.
Oh yeah. That's funny, is it?
The funny thing is...
the 800th anniversary. Can you believe we've been in country this long?
We've been a country longer than 800 years.
Well, yes, I know, but...
We've been a country since...
Can you believe we've had laws? There you go.
Laws.
We've had laws.
We had laws, and it was the king's law. And it was whatever he thought was right.
Yeah.
He said, that's...
King's word is law, you know.
Well, that's what it was, yeah.
Yeah.
In 2015, the UK's royalty and government converged. David Cameron was Prime Minister at the time. At the Runnymede, because it's still there, Runnymede. They've got all the...
What am I thinking of every time you say Runnymede?
You're thinking of Runnymede, like the mead that's runny.
Something run. Something...
River Run.
River Run? No, that's
from
not
Game
it.
of Thrones,
I don't know.
isn't it?
Okay, go ahead. I'm not... Yes.
They converged at the famous meadow in Runnymede, because it's like a watermeadow. It's very, very lovely place to have negotiations between your rebellious barons and
You know what?
king.
Governments loved doing that back then, didn't they? They always want to, like...
What, in 1215?
Well, no, it's like something...
They were like, let's go somewhere nice.
No, there's something in Texas history, too. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure how many Texas listeners we have, but... So if any of you are out there, let me know what I'm thinking of. I want to say... Oh, I don't know. There's something in Texas history where, like, some sort of law or agreement or something was famously, like, signed and put together, like, under a tree, and you know what I mean? Like, I just... Okay.
You're talking about, like, the Civil War surrender or something?
Yeah.
Between the Generals Union and the Confederate soldiers?
Sam Houston? I
don't know.
Okay,
I mean,
anyway,
maybe
sorry.
you're talking about Texas.
Magna Carta.
Magna Carta.
Yeah.
The Magna Carta was signed in Texas. No, on its 800th anniversary or birthday, as you could call it.
Yeah.
They converged there, but at the time, funnily enough, the Conservative government was seeking to replace the Human Rights Act with the British Bill of Rights.
Oh yeah.
You know, because the supreme arbiter of
which is what
the Human Rights Act is like 1998 was the supreme arbiter of that as a European court. So, European member states would have had a say in any kind of thing.
I mean...
So they decided, and that was like just before Brexit became a thing.
Yeah.
And they're still trying to... Well, Johnson's government have passed trying to pass a new one, a new Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
Which, would be decided by Britain, by a British government,
Yeah.
And there's like people who have.
It sort of makes sense. Really.
I mean, it's at its second reading stage right now, so it might go through. But we don't know yet. It's like they've been trying to pass this now for what, 5 years? No, 7 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, well, it's actually it's actually Johnson's thing. They've been trying to pass this Johnson one for like a year or so.
Okay, yeah.
But it's at its second reading stage. But I mean, I haven't really looked into what the differences might be. I mean, I just the fact that it would be like a British court which would ultimately decide your fate.
Yeah.
Rather than just European member states, which is kind of like, I guess that British Bill of Rights came just before Brexit.
Yeah.
So that's when like the whole, I don't know why he was trying to like pass that, then decided to go, we're not going to secede from the EU,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, that's politics for you.
Yeah.
But yes.
It's interesting. I mean, the whole like idea of the Magna Carta is interesting because the thing is Americans particularly love to say to British people, oh, well, you all don't have any rights technically, you
don't have any freedoms.
Yeah. And it's like,
which is funnily enough, like your freedom, the other day a freedom was taken away by the Supreme Court, but
we don't talk about
yeah. And who you have to blame for that? Amber Heard. No, it's just like
I thought you were gonna say Dave Grohl.
No, Dave Grohl is all knowing in this house. No, it's just it's just like that kind of thing. It's like a common theme. Yeah, it's like, America's the only free country. Free speech and stuff, and everywhere else is a police state. And if you say the wrong thing, they lock you up and they shave your head and they torture you. You know? And it's like, no.
I guess the difference is that we have certain ones like spelled out for us, and you guys, yours is more of just like in general. You know what I mean?
It's unwritten constitution,
which is a little bit better in a way. It's a little bit better because it can be interpreted differently over time and as necessary. At the end of the day,
because I presume the Constitution can be interpreted differently.
That's a whole other discussion.
Maybe we should do another episode on this.
Oh my God,
we'll get some experts in.
I don't know if we should, actually.
We'll get Amber Heard, Johnny Depp. We'll just do a whole trial.
No, we won't. Yeah, we won't get them. We'll get their lawyers.
Their lawyers in, and we can just
particularly
discuss
that Camille Vasquez and what was her lawyer's name that everybody. Oh.
That poor woman.
Yeah, poor thing.
She had to deal with that, and it's like she's probably not a bad lawyer,
Oh, jeez.
It's like she's probably one of these that do the commercials for, like, I'm on top of it or whatever, Like, and I was like, do you know what? You are on top of it.
Oh my God, they don't get that. None of them live in Austin. Our listeners,
yeah,
we don't have to know.
That was a look because that's something. This is off topic again, but moving here. Lawyers doing commercials. Yeah. And on billboards is something you don't see in the UK. Yeah.
We have this one guy, I think he's named Ted Lorenz.
Ted Lorenz. And you've got Thomas J. Henry. Thomas J. Henry, right? He's all of Texas, I think.
Ted Lorenz is always standing on a roof. Like he's done
it's
several
injury
different
lawyers.
He's done several different commercials, but he's always on a rooftop for some reason. But there's this one. There's a huge crack all the way across the top of the roof.
And he's straddling it.
It's like, I'm
on top of it. The Great Divide. But there's Thomas J. Henry, and it's so bad because they've got Ernie Hudson from Ghostbusters in to do like a PSA about phones.
Oh god,
you've seen it, and it's just you cannot cross those streams, and I'm like, Thomas J. Henry, just see Ghostbusters.
It's hilarious because my nephew, we've been with him when that commercial's come on, and he's just like, Erica, look, because he recognizes him from Ghostbusters, and he thinks like, I don't know, it's an advertisement for a new Ghostbusters movie.
It's not even like an advert for his law firm. Because they've got so much money, these injury lawyers, they can afford to make commercials.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's something you'd never see in Britain. It's like, that goes to like civil claims or small claims court or something, like an injury, compensation and all that. The lawyers don't really advertise. It's
a lot of the time it doesn't even go to court,
legal aid or whatever you get for that.
You just get them to try to get a settlement, out of court.
Yes, yeah, you hire them and then they talk to the other person's lawyer and say, okay, this is what we want.
Give us money.
Give us money. Goodbye.
Give us money and we'll go away.
So we'll keep hounding you. Yeah. And I mean, I guess they must be successful because they have a lot of money, to make these commercials, and they're on top of it. and can afford Ernie. They can afford Ernie Hudson, who's like the biggest star of Ghostbusters.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
But anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's all we have time for.
If you tuned in to learn something about the Magna Carta, I do apologize.
They think they have learned a lot about...
They think they have.
Austin injury lawyers.
But, this is a podcast where we just chat.
We just chat, yeah. And, things come up and we start talking about them. And if we go off topic, we try to come back to it.
So if this is the first podcast you've ever heard of ours, and you thought you were going to tune in for an educational podcast about the Magna Carta, yeah.
We delivered. We delivered on that. And then some.
Anyway, we do thank you guys for your support, as always. We appreciate you tuning in. Be sure to check us out on social media. We are at Butty, TEABUTTY, on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And we'll talk to you next time.
We will. Goodbye.
Bye.